Hello, everybody out there in old Bollocks land. Welcome to 2023. It feels remarkably like 2022, I have to say, but 2023 has started, and this is the first podcast of the season. So please do say hello to Stephen Oldhead Ivy.
Hello, how's everybody doing?
Hello. That was really nice.
Yeah,
Hey, how is everybody?
I'm in a good mood. What can I say?
Cool. Yes, as am I. Um, so what do you do for Christmas, New Year? How did it go, mate?
I did very little, which is the way that I like it.
Yeah,
I didn't, yeah, Christmas was really low key. And then even like we're lucky the neighborhood that we live in on New Year's Eve, there's everybody in the neighborhood for some reason just decides to say fuck it and do illegal fireworks all over the place. So once it becomes midnight here, you just walk out to the street and you get a fireworks display everywhere.
yeah,
So so I don't ever have to
nice.
go anywhere. I literally just stay here, and it was nice. It's the way I like it. I don't like making a whole shitload of plans because it just stresses me out.
Yeah, no, totally. I managed to get to two parties. I got to one, hosted one, and yeah, there you go. Christmas, fuck it. New
Boom.
Year's, all right. And here we are in 2023.
And also, this is the first time that we've met since we did a cranked and ranked on Acid Rain. the,
Oh,
the question is, I'm assuming you watched it, right?
I listened.
You listened.
I listened. I've basically I've really discovered the other day that like I can't watch podcasts. I've been listening to podcasts since they first came out, and that's my medium. That's my game.
Yeah.
And I tried to watch one of my favorite podcasts the other day. I was like, oh, I tried. I was just like, no, no, the pictures are not adding anything. It's
Yeah.
not happening.
It's pretty rare. Like I like to there's the Always Sunny podcast. The guys from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, they do a
Yeah,
podcast. And that's one where I like seeing the guys and them
yeah,
interacting with each other. But most of the time, yeah, the only reason we started doing a video version is because we would always get comments like, "Hey, I always watch this on YouTube. Can you guys just put up you talking?" I'm like, "Oh, I guess we can do both." So we put out
yeah.
each version of it. I guess like this, there'll be a podcast version of this through
Absolutely.
Talking
Yeah,
Bollocks, and then on
yeah.
my page. But
So I
anyway, so yeah,
yeah.
what did you think of our ranking?
I was surprised. I was surprised how low the age of entitlement was in Eddie's list.
Yeah,
Um, I was surprised that the age of entitlement hadn't quite kicked Obnoxious out of number one.
it's going to be.
Um,
Unfortunately, I have to admit to you, it's going to be tough
yeah,
because
yeah,
I
no, no,
love
no,
that
that's
album.
mate, dude. So do I. That's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine. Um, and yeah, the whole Phil Lewis vocal thing from LA Guns, Jesus, no wonder you've never said that to my face before.
Have you gone back to listen to any of them yet to see if it
I
actually makes
don't
sense to you?
fucking need to. You insane man.
I'm telling
Honestly,
you, I'm telling you,
no.
I could play you two things next to each other, and it sounds your vocal, the timbre of your voices are so similar.
A mate of mine who has for his sins been an LA Guns fan in his time,
Yeah.
and has also been my best friend for the best part of 40 years. Uh, Messaged me and went, I knew what he must have been listening to because I just got a WhatsApp through and it just went Phil Lewis question mark, and then another message just went, what the fuck is he on about?
It's just I don't know if it's a combination of things. It might even be the accent as well. I don't know if you guys are from the same area, but it's like
I doubt it
there
very
there are
much,
so many little things that sound similar. But it
but
just but obviously your vocal delivery is much different than his. But I don't know. I
no,
don't think
hey,
that's
dude,
not a bad
I'll take
comparison. He's a good singer.
look, I'll take your word for it, okay? And find those two bits and send them to me, yeah, and
Okay.
then I will listen, and I will, and why not? I'll come back on Old Bollocks next month and give you my verdict. How's that?
Now you have to remember that this is when I first started hearing you guys. So there was no
listen to the excuses start already, ladies and gentlemen.
It's just because if you take Phil Lewis now and you now, there's not really a comparison. This is
no. I get it.
80s.
I get it. You know,
this is the 80s.
Well, get your 80s clips out, and I'll get my fucking 2023 opinion out.
All right.
And we'll do that in the next one.
either way, whether you like it or not, or whether you hear it or not, that was a catalyst to me getting into Acid Reign, because I was all like, I like the way his voice sounds, and so it led me into getting into the band.
dude, we will take anything, mate. You know, that's absolutely great.
I'm just glad that I got Eddie on board with you guys, because he didn't really know much, and so I'm just like, well, now he's really into you guys, and I'm just like, yeah, there's a whole 80s thrash scene that he doesn't know much about. And I'm like, yeah, just start going down that rabbit hole of like, there's a lot of good shit from that time.
Well, and you know, there you go. There's the tale of Acid Reign's career. Do you know what I mean? There's you in Texas telling Eddie, you know, in Bristol, all about Acid Reign. I was like, yeah, that pretty much sums up our career right there.
I mean, he's also 20 years younger than me, so you know he gets around to it eventually. But yeah, so that was fun to do. But
cool. No, I enjoyed listening to you both. It's always hearing. It's always good hearing different opinions. And I love it when people go really granular on when that bit goes there from that to that. Oh, it's so good. Like those bits. Because that's they're the bits that everyone else just goes, yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
But people in bands are writing them for people who go, just listen to this bit here, this bit there, like this 3 seconds of music that, you know, gets me excited. That's who it's there for.
I mean, yeah, the little things are what make music memorable for me, really. I mean, it's all those little moments, some of which most people don't even ever notice. And I'll be like, yeah, that's one of my favorite moments ever. But anyway, but moving on, since you know we've talked about that. It is January, which means there's pretty much fuck all to talk about in the world of music. But they're the first release of 2023 that I was actually looking forward to came out, so I have exactly one new album to talk about. And then you have something you want to talk about, and then everybody, we're going to be cutting to an interview that we did with Luke, who is the vocalist of a UK urban thrash band called Tempashot, and they have a new album out, and you'll hear us talk to him. And it's a nice conversation, and it's a good introduction to that band and what they are bringing to the world of thrash metal.
Which, having already got a little bit of your opinion of the new Obituary album, this is going to this leads nicely into it in a kind of opposite kind of way, because like Tempashot, as you said, you know, urban thrash pioneers bringing something new to the scene. Over to the new Obituary album.
Obituary, yeah, the only album I want to talk about, which for the people of the podcast world, that's me with the vinyl. The Obituary album is called Dying of Everything. And that, for some reason, is a title that makes me smile, because it doesn't seem very serious to me. It's just like, what are you dying of? Everything. And
the cover should just be kind of like, you know, a Jewish guy in a business suit shrugging his shoulders. That sort of, what you going to
do? What do you got?
I'm doing everything here.
But it's, you know, I don't remember how many albums they've done now. This has got to be like 10, 11, somewhere around that for Obituary. But I was looking forward to it because I'm
one album 10 times. I don't know.
Yeah, that too. I'm a big Obituary fan because they were I was really big, and I got into death metal in the early 90s, and Obituary were one of the first bands that I was really into. And so I've always liked their sound, and I've always liked John Tardy's vocal delivery, because he is a very unique vocalist. You hear that, and there's no mistaking his vocals. And but yeah, the thing is about this album is it is better, than I think the last few that they've done. But that being said, it still is Obituary doing Obituary. So if you're a fan of Obituary, you're going to be like, fuck yeah. And if you're not, it's literally going to do nothing for you. So there's not a whole lot to say about it. It's kicking off the new year with kind of a okay, because like this is an album that I thoroughly enjoyed, but I know that it's January and I'm like, there is so much shit coming out this year that I'm looking forward to, that there is the possibility that eventually this will just be buried underneath a whole bunch of other albums. But that being said, I do like it. I like the songs are cool. There's a lot of cool riffs and the production's pretty good. So I don't have a lot. And I guess I just like the fact that those dudes are still kicking it however many years, 30 plus years down the line. I just saw them recently. They played with Carcass when I went to see them here, and they sound amazing live too. And the kind of vocals that they do, like death metal vocals, a lot of those vocalists, you hear them now, and so many of them have just lost the ability to be effective as death metal vocalists. There's a few that can still do it. Obviously, like Corpse Grinder in Cannibal Corpse, he still sounds like himself. And John Tardy at the same time, he still has that same, he can still pull it off, not only on an album, but live as well. And I just look at it, I've never been a death metal vocalist, but I have been a vocalist in the past. So I listen to somebody doing things like that, which is aggressive for 45 minutes. And I'm just like, I don't know what that does to your voice over the years, or what warm-ups or a regimen, whatever, to keep your voice in shape that you have to do. But I just listen to him and I'm just like, that alone is enough for me to go, damn, he can still pull that shit off. But anyway, that's really it for that.
Rob Halford of death metal.
Sure. Yeah. I would say that. Speaking of that, we've never really talked about it, but I've been vocally not a very big Judas Priest fan, and I've now found my way into becoming one. And I've actually, it's been a lot of fun. I've been like,
yeah, you've been getting into the Priest. Was this work? Was this for Cranked and Ranked?
We did a Cranked and Ranked on Priest like 2 years ago, and even when we did it then, there were only a handful of albums where I went, I like things about these, but it's just not there for me yet. And it was those albums that I went back to listen to again, which funny enough are all late 80s albums. Those are the Judas Priest albums that brought me in. And now that I'm there, now I'm kind of moving backwards and I'm going like, oh wait, no, there's a lot of bangers on these too. I think my biggest issue with Priest has always been, not always, but for a long time has been that people seem to talk about them and overlook the fact that the majority of their music is not metal. It's just hard rock. And so, and once I started hearing those songs, the ones that nobody talks about, like people will just be like, Hellion, it's a great song. Another Thing Coming, great song. But then there's other ones where it's like, it's literally just straightforward hard rock. And I'm like, I kind of like these better. And so that's how I'm getting into them. And so but it's cool because they are a band that I've always been like, man, everybody loves them. And I should too, because Rob Halford's an amazing vocalist. They have amazing guitar work and I should get into it. And now it's finally happening at almost 45 years of age for me. So, better late than never.
Dude, I'm over the moon for you.
Plus they got a new album coming out this year. So I'll be able to approach it from a very different perspective than before.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cool.
Anyway,
well, I'm going to discuss one album that it kind of went into my my top 5 late, so it was a top 6 this year, and it came in late because I only managed to listen to it a few times, and it was.
I think we did mention this on the last episode, but I don't think we went very far in depth into it.
Right. So it is He Is Legend, and the album is Endless Hallway. I mean, I've been into them for the previous album was White Bat, previous album was Few, FEW, and then there's another. White Bat was good but not great. few was great, and this is also great. It's so original. There's so many. There really isn't many bands out there doing what they're doing. Whereas it's not just a mix of styles. For me, there's a mix of eras. Like, I can hear a song and it's like, this could have been in the 90s.
Yeah.
This could easily come from the 90s. And then you'll hear another song and be like, well, this is like, bang up to date. This is today. And I think a lot of that is to do with their willingness to musically try anything, but also the fact that they've got a chameleon of a singer who can just change the vibe of a song and change his voice to suit it, which makes for a really, really interesting listen. I know, when I bugged you to listen to it.
Yeah. I was impressed.
Yeah, you got that first time around, didn't you?
Yeah, and a lot of it had to do with the vocals, but also what you're talking about, because I do think that they have they have things about them that are very modern, but a lot of it has a very classic feel. And when I say classic, I mean like my wheelhouse, which is the 90s stuff. There's something and the vocalist too. He has a delivery that is just not a lot of vocalists. I guess it's mostly in metal. Vocalists seem to like pick an extreme to go towards, and he's a guy that seems like he's very like in control of what he's trying to do and kind of incorporates whatever element he's trying to do and making it his own. Because he doesn't sound like a whole shitload of different vocalists. He sounds like one guy that can do a lot of different things. And I like that about it. The vocals was a big thing for me. Just it hit some sort of sweet spot where I was just like, I like the way he sounds.
I mean, and it was for me as well. I'm going back years to when I first heard them, but straight away, as soon as I heard his voice, I was like, oh, like this guy's got a voice. It's like the guy in Ruben. First time I heard him, I was like, yeah,
and
dude's got a voice.
I don't even know if I know Ruben.
I've played loads of them on Radio Bollocks. Right, okay.
Right over my head.
I'm doing them a disservice because they're not, but they're probably the closest thing that the UK has ever produced to a good Foo Fighters.
Okay, all right.
The album to listen to is Very Fast, Very Dangerous.
Okay.
But again, it's like it's not like the Foos. It's not like lots of 4 and 5 minute songs. There'll be like a 3 minute, there'll be a 6 minute, but it's very fast, very dangerous. I really do urge you and any listener who hasn't to listen to it, because it's a great album. But the dude can sing, and also the way that even within a song, there are sections where you go, oh yeah, this is an absolute like 90s anthem new metal chorus. Do you know what I mean? But because it's wedged in between two verses that are nothing to do with 90s new metal, you're like, well, this is just original then, isn't it? This is exactly, this is bringing everything in. And it's me being very analytical when I'm going like, oh, hang on, that's a big new metal 90s core. Yeah, it all works. It all, as I always say, is no good being able to point out people's influences. That means they're not doing what they should be doing. But they have this cohesive sound where they can do anything. Now I do a radio show for my patrons, of which you're one. Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. And I was putting the latest edition of Radio Bollocks again today. I was putting it together, and before I started, I was like, right, I want a song from the new He's Legend album, but I want to pick something that doesn't like throw people immediately. Do you know what I mean? It's like just something that kind of just draws you in a little bit. I listened to all 11 tracks. It was one song that I thought I can open the show with, and people aren't after 30 seconds or a minute going to go, what the fuck is this? This is like this is odd. You can throw something like that, in between a Slayer and a Creator track, But it was interesting to just go through and go, wow, yeah, every one of these songs is like just coming in on a kind of what the fuck kind of vibe.
Mhm.
Where's this going? What are they doing? And some of the chorus, I walk round humming the chorus in my head, and I just think, to hear that on the radio, is that like an advert at the moment? Is it a a game show or something? And it's like, Christ, it's a chorus from one of those songs off that He Is Legend album.
Yeah.
And yet in my head, I'm like singing along to it, going like, yeah, this is no, surely not. But incredible. I'm absolutely in love with it. I really am. You
That's
must.
the mark of a good album right there, when the shit just is in your brain and you can't get rid of it.
Yeah, yeah, and also when your brain starts subscribing it to other things, you're like,
Yeah.
"What? No, it's not that." Right, what next? Yeah, I'm a huge fan. I really am. And I mean, also the album "Few" from a few years ago. Oh
Mhm.
man, that's the best album Deftones never released. I mean, it is just, honestly, just picks the Deftones up and wipes the floor with any album they've put out in the last 6 or 7 years. And it came out in the same year, and I was everybody was raving about the Deftones album of that year, and I was just like, why is no one talking about this? You know, and that's kind of musically, I think, the closest that I could kind of match them up to, because the way the vocalist is such a chameleon and such a big part of the band. But for
Mhm.
me, they've got a more cohesive sound than
Yeah.
Deftones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just
Yeah.
sometimes Deftones sounds like, oh, this is a Chino song. Brackets, the other three couldn't be asked. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and there's nothing worse than hearing something like, oh, maybe, oh, that's the guitarist song, clearly, because that's the best riff that's been on the album so far, and it's like brutal riff, and Chino's not doing much. Whereas this, for me, is like, yeah, it's just cohesive and cathartic all at once. How's that? Put that on the
Nice.
poster.
Hell yeah. And you liked it so much, we talked about it on two different episodes. We mentioned He Is Legend. So clearly that is the stamp of approval. That's a big ass fat stamp of approval from Howard H. Smith right there.
It is indeed, and if you're watching the video, you can see me smiling. But yeah, listening to the podcast, believe you, I'm smiling because I like it.
Nice. And that's
Um,
January.
well, yeah, I mean, January's kind of overrated, isn't it? Although February, I must admit, February is a big month for us. We've got 6 dates in the UK.
Oh shit.
Um, I know. And March, well, it's looking like we may have some shows in Mexico. So
Hell yeah.
yeah,
And also,
we I,
according to a meme I saw, you have an album coming out this year.
well, I was kind of surprised by that too.
Yeah.
I've got to be
I just wanted to chime in and comment and be like, they're still writing it, so maybe not.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's like I see that, and it's like it's what somebody wants or somebody thinks. They've done the
Oh yeah.
maths. I mean, they definitely haven't approached every band on there and said, "So, what are the chances of a new release this year?"
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've shot that down a couple of times. I mean, and maybe get the album recorded this year, but certainly not written, recorded, and released this year.
Yeah. Just in case there are people who are watching this on my channel and are clueless, Howard is the vocalist of a UK thrash band called Acid Rain. And I always just assume everybody knows that, but maybe there are one or two that don't.
Well, absolutely. The internet is a big old place, and apparently, I'm not as famous as Jesus. Don't know what happened there. Obviously, he had a better agent.
It's the hair and the beard always work out.
Yeah, well, that and his dad was, big in the business of people.
The biggest, some would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Unless you're a woman, of course. Yeah, it's funny that, isn't it? Religion doesn't seem to like women. I wonder why.
No.
Was it created by men? Oh, fucking hell! Do the maths. But Yeah, I am the singer in Acid Rain. We are doing some dates in February, and then we're going to Mexico in March, and hopefully, we're going to get to see you. But I doubt it, to be honest, because I can't see you putting yourself or your family through a 16-hour round trip to see an
Yeah.
English rap band in Mexico.
I mean, doing things from here is not only do because I have a child, but also I have 4 dogs, and so all of these things make planning trips and things like that very difficult. I'm already having to plan out our trip in August to go see Metallica for 2 nights. So but that's closer.
Well,
That's a 2-hour drive.
well, look, I'll be completely honest. I'll be completely honest. I would rather you stayed at home than brought your child and 4 dogs with you.
Yeah, that would be a disaster.
Yeah, so we're good, mate. We're good. There's no problem at all. That's absolutely fine. It's not like we're playing 2 streets away. We're in a different country, thousands of miles away. I absolutely get it. So
That being said, though, maybe I'll just sprinkle the seed in case somebody's seeing. Are you a promoter in the U.S.? Do you know a promoter in the U.S.? Can you hook up Acid Rain with a promoter that will put together a United States tour? Then I would be forever in your debt because just have them come through Houston, Texas, and we're all good.
yeah, you've got about 8 weeks, so get cracking. Don't be shy about getting in touch, and this isn't coming out till the end of the month either. So it's even less time by then.
Who knows? Maybe they'll see this in the future, and it'll be next year that the promoter sends you guys to the U.S. You never know.
Although I did get a message this evening from another Mexican promoter saying that you're playing so and so town. How do you fancy playing here the following night? So I just texted him back and said, like, well, no, because we're playing here, and then we're playing here, and then we're playing here.
Who would have thought Acid Rain big in Mexico?
Yeah, I know. Mexico and South America, fucking huge, apparently. But just looking forward to getting over there, mate. And having some and very quickly adjusting to the altitude, hopefully, because I don't want to find myself running out of breath.
Yeah.
After one verse, and then just going, oh my god, this is going to be a long 10 days.
all I ask is try to put together a tour documentary as fun as the last one that you did, because
we will indeed, yeah.
Because I love that one. Actually, I love all of the tour documentaries that are up. Even the Jokes on Us one. That one's fun too.
Yeah, well, I will definitely get all the we'll pool everybody's video, and then it's a case of just like sift through it and get it all together.
Yeah. But, for those of you who don't know, if you go to Acid Rain's YouTube, they pretty much everything that I think you've been able to find is up there on YouTube, including an old documentary from the early 90s when they were on a tour, and then a couple from the well, I guess it's not the recent lineup anymore, the last current lineup.
The last iteration of the lineup. Yeah. So anyway, how do you fancy? We've had a nice catch up. Should we go and have a little chat with Luke?
Yeah. Let's lead into our interview with Luke from Tempashot. Anything to say to intro this?
Yeah, here is Luke Alexander, the lead singer with UK urban thrash metal pioneers Tempashot. Luke and I first spoke many years ago, and we've stayed in touch ever since. And they are going to be on the tour that we're doing in February. Not the one in Mexico, but the one we're doing in the UK in February, and a few dates in April as well. So without further ado, let's go chat to Luke. It's really happening. We've really got Luke Alexander of UK Urban Thrash Pioneers. I copyright that sentence.
Yeah, that's your turn.
Tempashot. Yeah, did you like that, mate? Did you like that?
Yeah, that was good. It makes sense. It feels like it gives us our own sort of little identity now. It sort of sets us apart. So
urban metal pioneers, without a doubt.
Do you know what's interesting about that term over in America? Urban is a term that white people put on black stuff in order to like be like, oh, this is an urban movie. That just means there's black people in it.
Yes. Yeah, I saw that because I suddenly thought, are people going to expect, something different? But I suppose over here, obviously, different places look at it in different things. I mean, urban, when I think of urban, I suppose what myself and what H was probably thinking of is that sort of gritty sort of, I suppose, city sort of environment of sort of underground, and
which is that's technically what it's supposed to mean. So yeah, so over in England and other parts of the world, you're good.
We're using the word. Sorry, we're using the word correctly.
I was going to say I wouldn't be able to think of a better way to describe it. That nails it to me. So,
well, I'll take that.
That's good. Yeah. That's we'll use that. I think we already do use that now. Actually, I think that's been updated to all the pages now. Urban thrash.
Nice, I like it. I mean, look, I've got to say at this point that when we're recording this, who would have thought all those years ago when we were first, you first messaged me, who would have thought that your first ever gig would be supporting us, and your first ever tour is with us as well. It's awesome.
I know, it's madness. It's it is weird because it's. I'm not necessarily one of those people who likes to think that things are meant to happen in a certain way. I kind of like to take things as they come, but it's kind of weird how like the first person obviously I approached was you, and then like this is obviously way back, but. And then even with the Tempashot thing, it was just purely through one of the interview things I've watched you doing. I thought, let's try him with this one, see what he thinks of this one. But it's just it made sense.
So I'll let you guys know that I did watch your interview that you two did, so you don't necessarily have to like repeat a whole bunch of shit because I listened to that one. But to be fair, just before we go any further with that, just because this will be on the Old Head channel as well, maybe we want to do like a quick briefing of who you guys are, when you started, where you're from, just like, the what do you call it? The one sheet description of your band.
Yeah. The elevator pitch for your band.
Well, basically, we are a 5-piece, urban thrash metal band. Basically we use thrash. Well, for the first album, we're using thrash as that main sort of bass, and obviously we'd like to continue with that sort of sound, but then we want to start adding our own more unique spin to it as we progress. And we've got myself on vocals. I also do some songwriting as well, and then we've got Dio Fernandez, he's our rhythm guitarist. We have Isaac Ambrose, who's our drummer. We have James Lockie, he's our bassist, and he's also secondary vocals and backing vocals. And we have Simon J. Ellis, who is our lead guitarist.
Sweet.
And we started we are, I suppose you could, as cliche as it's probably will become, we are one of those lockdown bands that sort of came together in that sort of era. So,
nice. And really, the urban tag is referring mostly just to your vocal approach, which to me and I think for H as well is the selling point of the music, because it is, a lot of it is coming at thrash from a little more, it's pretty straightforward at times, but just putting on top essentially vocals that would be right at home on a hip hop track over the thrash music. That's the interesting combination there. And what's so funny, H?
I know, it's the way my brain works. It's like and sorry, it's your accent as well. So it's just like the way you put your vocals over the thrash there. Over the thrash.
Anyway, I am an American, but that's not my fault. Okay, everybody. I had no choice.
No, I completely agree, and sorry, it just made me chuckle, mate.
It's just like whenever we do the Patreon Zoom things, and I'm the one American, and everyone has the the varying different UK accents from different parts, and I'm just this guy that's like, oh, hello, I'm boring over here with whatever this is. To me, it sounds like, you know, the white bread of accents, where it's just like, you're not much to sink your teeth into.
Well,
You all
fair
sound.
enough.
Everyone always sounds different in their own head, though. It's like, especially if you're a vocalist, and you know how you talk, and this is the same with anyone, how you talk and this and that. But it's only when you actually hear yourself recording, you think, do I really sound like that?
Yeah.
And it's a weird experience. And then you
it took me years to get used to how I sound as a vocalist.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, you know, way back in the day, first time I ever recorded myself on just on a tape recorder. You know, you play yourself back and you're like, God, is that really me?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it is a bizarre kind of feeling. But so I want to pick up on something that Steve said, and you kind of hinted at as well, kind of like your vocals are very much the urban aspect, and it is fairly straight ahead thrash that you're operating over, but also I get that as a first album, and this is picking up a little bit on the conversation we had on my podcast, but it kind of picks up on the fact that that's where you need to be right now, because to get the vote, to be able to kind of merge these two things together, which is these kind of like really intense rapping with thrash. If you've got a load of math metal going on underneath you, this thing's just going to fall apart at the door.
Exactly. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and so
you've kind of got to find your kind of middle ground somewhere, haven't you?
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there. I think I can pretty honestly say all of us, we were very conscious of the fact that, to start with, we can't go too overboard on the musical front, because not only have I got to try and get used to doing this and actually seeing if it can work, you've also got to think from where we're coming from as a kind of new band. I didn't want to kind of make it too crazy at first, because I know there's a lot of thrash fans who could get into this. You could sort of ease into it, and then on the second album you might be able to then start taking people, and they're okay, we know the vocals now, we're kind of used to that, so let's see what you can do as you go forward. So I think there was that. It was very self-conscious. It was in the back of my mind, thinking, I know the music is very thrash, you know, that there's nothing really there in the music on the album that's mind-blowingly new. And that's purely from the aspect of I needed to first get my head around doing this and how it can work. But yeah, I mean, the whole album was a weird process how it came together anyway. But
I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea that especially at this point, that it's straightforward thrash, because when you think about metal in general, thrash is really, out of all the subgenres of metal, it's the one that has the most emphasis on the rhythm part. Like the riffs and the rhythm is way more important in thrash than it is in any other kind of metal. So it kind of makes sense to take that template and be like, well, this will work, because obviously in the hip hop world, it's all started with beats. And that's, you know, built on top of that. Whereas in this, you're taking a style of metal that rhythmically, that part is important. It's important for the rhythm to be tight. And so that it works out. But I do think that I guess we should just get into the album. So the album is out, right? It's come out now.
No,
it will be when this interview comes out on Monday, the 30th of January.
Oh, okay. So it's their debut album, it's Certified Dangerous is the name of the album, which is also one of the tracks. But when this is out and everybody's listening to this or watching this, you can go find it wherever you find your music, I'm sure. But he is so it is their debut. But even then, like, I think that it doesn't. you don't need to make any excuses for the music being straightforward thrash, because I do think that not only is this the album that I think you guys needed to make first, I think it's the album that everybody needs to hear first. I really do think that it's like, it's the perfect sort of introduction to what you guys are doing. And it's, I mean, I enjoy the fuck out of it. I think it's really fun. So
that's good to hear.
That's a great word. Yeah, it's a fun, entertaining listen. Do you know what I mean? It's like afterwards, like, right, okay, so I've had my ass handed to me. Fair enough. It's not just another thrash metal experience. It really is, something that is different. And I can absolutely hear where where you're going to go with this.
Is this the first time we've ever reviewed an album with the person sitting in front of us? somebody from the band sitting here while we review an album.
This is an interesting way to do things, actually. I mean,
it's a guaranteed way of getting no honest opinions.
Well, that's the thing. You can be honest. I mean, I'm pretty laid back when it comes to that sort of thing. I love to hear people's what they like, what they don't like, all that. I just find it really interesting because I'm a music fan myself as well. So and obviously everyone can, you can give 100 people the same song and they all have a different view, and that's what's great about music. So I mean, also, I'm just starting off with the positives. There's no real negatives that I have to say about it, but also at the same time, you guys have a vision of what you're trying to do, and I'm never going to be the person to be like, look, I know what I'm talking about. Listen to this. It's because that's just bullshit. But at the same time, I do think that, like, you're right. Like, everybody's, even like the shittiest opinions matter in some way, just because it pushes you forward in some sort of way. Or it makes you hold on to the things that are important and you don't care. Fuck everybody else. I don't care. Just like I'm assuming you've run into probably some people that don't really like the vocal style on top of thrash. But that's the one thing that I'm just like, fuck that. Like, that's like, I mean, I'm already a hip hop fan, so it's easy for me to sort of find my way into it. But even then, it fits perfectly, just because, like I said, the rhythmic quality of it, because there are plenty of, like, what's the difference between that and, Tom Araya doing really high pitched stuff, but he's fitting in a lot of syllables in the part that he's doing. It's like, well, that's okay, but he has to be rhythmically on time with all of that shit that he's spouting. And so
absolutely.
So it's just, to me, it's a very natural thing, but I like the delivery because I just like that it's coming at it from this area where normally, if people were going to be like, hey, let's put some metal under this, it would be more in the hardcore vein of stuff or something like that, or new metal or whatever, which I like all of that stuff. But the thrash part is what's cool about this, just because I'm a huge fan of thrash metal in general.
But also, I think rap has sneaked into thrash in various little places. Obviously, one big place would be Machine Head. Some would say too far, but
Anthrax dabbled a bit, didn't they?
But as a for instance, not to make this all about me, but then doing exactly that. The first song on Edge of Entitlement, The New Low, well, second song, The New Low, there's a middle eight where I'm effectively rapping. That's,
well, also think about your fucking vocals on Sense of Independence. Like, how fucking fast. That's a mouthful.
That's
proper spitting. That is. Yeah.
Well, that's the whole point. I think part of the reason when I was looking into actually thinking, okay, that I'm going to be a vocalist and try and do this. It was a case of, like, I like bands with vocalists who kind of easily stick out a bit, so you know straight away that's this person, that's that person, because some vocalists sound quite similar. A lot of vocalists, especially a lot of newer bands, they a lot of them sound very similar. They're all trying to emulate a particular thrash singer's voice or this and that, and it's good to have a bit more of your own identity, which was again one of the things I liked about obviously H in Acid Rain, because there was no, yeah, I've said this to you before, but there is, you know, you are a recognized, you've got that recognizable voice, you know who it is, and you're the style and some ways you approach words and how you do certain lines. And as someone who does vocals myself, you can listen in, you think, I wouldn't have done it like that. That's interesting that he's done it like that, and things like that. So you pick up on things. So, but that was the main point. So you had to look and think, well, rap has been done a lot in metal with people doing it, but with thrash, it was, can we match the speed? Can we really go crazy with it and do some real, like the word that you've said, rhythmically, when you're bouncing syllables along to the riff and the very fast double time beats, you're kind of in, it's hard to explain it. It's kind of a flow, and it's the one problem live, obviously. If I always say the fact, if you're walking and you trip, you can sort of save yourself, but if you're running and you trip, it's harder to get out of it. So it's something, obviously, in a live atmosphere, you really have to lock in, and I have to rely on the drummer to make sure he doesn't miss a beat, because obviously if you're really going full flow or fast section and he, you know, there's a little misbeat or something goes that place, it can be hard to recover. So but that's all fun and games. It's all
I feel like it's interesting because I feel like so much music now is kind of, it's all sort of moving in a direction where other elements are being incorporated. Because on the hip hop side of things, I don't know if you see a lot of this over in the UK, but there are hip hop artists who are essentially now doing things like pop punk and emo in their, but it's still essentially, for the majority of it, a hip hop album, but they are adding these elements of these completely unrelated things. So I almost feel like now's the time, you know what I'm saying? Like everything's kind of moving forward to where a lot of artists are like, just why the fuck do we need to do just this one thing? Why does it have to be like that? That's the kind of thinking that makes me excited, because that's the only way I think music is going to become important again, is if people start taking chances and the audience embraces those chances, and then we'll all be better off. But you know, that's a hope for me, I guess.
That's the thing. When people have said we've had comments and people have said, "Oh, I love the thrash music. The shame about the vocals, etc., etc." I just think, well, go listen. There's thousands of thrash bands that are playing, that have got vocals that you go find them, go listen to them. Then you don't have to listen to it. But we're just trying to do, you know, find our own identity and go to a new territory with it. So
I've made the comment a lot over the years that I feel like a lot of metal fans, unfortunately, don't want something different. They literally want the same thing over and over again. But I don't think that's everybody. So I just think that eventually because it was, you know, back in the late 80s, early 90s, a lot of bands were doing different stuff and people were into it. So those kind of people still have to exist out there, but it just seems like there's an overwhelmingly large amount of people that are like, no, the vocals have to sound like this, and then they have to do these certain kinds of riffs for it to qualify as this kind of music. And it's just it's aggravating. But you know, luckily there are bands like yours that are just like, screw it, we're gonna fuck with whatever elements we can to make it our own, and I think that's great.
Definitely.
And also, when you were saying earlier about like walking and running, and which is a very good analogy, you're also you've taken a thrash approach to what you do as well. Do you know what I mean? It's like you could easily half time it. You know, you could easily like just take it easy, you know, and you know, not take the chances that you've taken. And I think that's admirable. I really do, because that for me is the big difference. That is like the fact that and the reason why I used urban it's got that kind of, for me, it's got that urban kind of garage feel to it.
Yeah.
You could easily just swap the music out, and I guarantee once this album starts getting to people's ears and all the rest of it, I'll guarantee somebody's going to be in touch and say, I want to whip the vocals off and put them on something else. and you know, and see what it sounds like and stuff like that. In fact, I know somebody who'll want to do it.
or shit, just on your own albums in the future, just take it and then do like a grime version of
the remix EP.
Yeah, and bless him. What Steve's not really realizing there, but you and I both know, is that when that happens, what happens is the rest of the band go, "Yeah, great idea." Fucking hell, it's all about him, isn't it? I fucking hate him.
That's true. But you know, at this point, we only have one of them in this room with us, so you know.
Yeah, absolutely, and also what those band members eventually realize is, oh yeah, fucking hell, it's exposure, isn't it, for the band? Yeah, and it's like whenever one member does something, doesn't matter who it is, the band is mentioned, which means it's the band that will be remembered that gets the exposure just as well.
Yeah, well, they do get that. They've been cool, because it was one of them. It was our drummer who told me. He said, "Oh, Machine Head are doing a duet thing. Join in, do one. I know you'd be really good at it, and you'll get a bit of exposure." And I wouldn't have done that otherwise, but of course I did. And it's a bit annoying, really, because it was with the Machine Head thing, and Rob Flynn actually posted it on the Machine Head page, and he put a link to Tempashot on his Machine Head page. He was like, "Oh, brilliant!" But we've got nothing else, so we didn't. We got a few sort of new followers and likes, but it was kind of a shame that wasn't at the same time as the album.
Yes, but you've also got somebody to send a copy of the album to as fucking soon as possible, and bug the shit out of, and you know, get some top tips and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, make sure you get stuck into Rob.
Yeah. Hassle him with emails and
get him to do a feature on the next album. That's that actually brings me to an interesting point when I was listening to the album, and obviously I'm kind of weird. I've noticed in the world of metal and where my brain goes with things. But when I was listening to the album the last time, I thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool if when they do the next Tempashot album, they approach it using elements that would normally be used on a hip hop album, meaning you have a lot of features, like get people from different bands and different artists to do features on the songs, and maybe even like have skits, you know, just like break it up like it's a hip hop album, but the music is not. It's literally thrash, but you're approaching it. You're approaching it like it's a hip hop album. And I just think that would be, that's the weirdness of my brain, where I go, oh, that'd be cool. But once again,
that's really weird. That's really weird you said that, because me and my guitarist were, Dio, we were having a discussion about it, just that thing the other day. You're saying how our album opens up kind of cliche in a way, you could say, traditionally, with the sort of Metallica style sort of that sort of intro with the acoustic, and then get heavier. And it was our other guitarist the other day said, what if we opened the album with a hip hop beat? Yeah. And then went into, and we were just thinking of things like that and thinking, yeah, you could. There's so much possibilities of stuff we can do.
That's for album number 2, because I do have to say that the way that the album begins is one of the most effective things for me, because it brings you into this sort of familiar landscape of this thrash metal song. And even when your vocals first kick in, you're not doing the real fast rapping yet. You start off slower, and then it kicks in, and it's almost like, holy shit, all right. So I really love the build into that. Like that's a great way to start the album, I think.
Yeah, that was kind of our thought process, because it is that, like, conveying that familiar territory. So a lot of people who, might be put off because they hear, oh, if someone says, oh, check it out, there, this is sort of rap metal, whatever they want to use. But if you straight away, you do have that familiar side. So if you can get through the album and the lyrics grow and your vocals grow, and they might, for some people, they might not. It depends, but there's definitely that familiar feel to the album especially if you're a thrash fan, you kind of feel at home.
I think sometimes we get lost in the metal community. We kind of stick our heads up our asses a little bit, and we forget that there's plenty of people out there in the metal community in generations coming through and people already around who haven't really been jiving with the album concept for a long time, and they're just playlist people. And you are a classic playlist band. It's like, well, I've heard a couple of tracks like it. Whole album, it's a bit too fast for me, heavy for me. But these two songs or this song, and they'll get shared to fuck. So yeah, I think it also you're the kind of band that will get airplay traded and recommended purely because like, have you heard this? This is quite interesting. You might like this, which is a pretty darn cool way of building a fan base.
Yeah, I think that's why we did make sure we kept the majority of the songs around the 4-5 minute mark. I think most of them are. I think there's only one song on there that's about 7 minutes, and the opening song I think was 6 minutes. But apart from that, I think it was about, with the 9 songs, it was about 45 minute listen, which was kind of the ballpark I wanted to get in. Any longer than that, it's like
yeah, absolutely. 90 minutes for a movie, 45 minutes for an album. That's the fucking law.
Yeah, I'm with all of that. I'm all about 32-minute album. Just go ahead. I'm fine. Do it. 32-minute album.
One of my favorite albums of last year doesn't even make half an hour.
Yeah.
Gridiron, no good at goodbyes. That is fucking. Have you heard that, by the way, yet, Luke?
I have not yet. No, I'll have to check that one out.
Gridiron, no good at goodbyes.
Gridiron.
That is more on rap metal on that side of things, where it's hardcore.
Yeah, absolutely. But that for me is kind of like, it's almost like rap and hip hop meets like 80s New York hardcore.
Yeah.
It's got more to do with Biohazard than it has with Machine Head. But yeah, definitely worth checking out, mate. Definitely worth checking out.
That actually leads to like a question that I have, which is, vocally speaking, do you have influences that when you're writing stuff or doing stuff that you're pulling from? And are they, obviously they may not just be hip hop, but like, are there vocalists that you're like, I'm shooting for that kind of thing?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's funny that I've been asked this a few times, and obviously I can't sit there and say I was sort of, inspired by Bruce Dickinson and singers like that, because that's not me. That's not what I do. Stage-wise and what he does live, I can look at that and think, there's some. I like what he does, and he's great with the crowd and this and that. But
kick phones out of people's hands.
Tell them they can't smoke pot at my concert.
Yeah.
Yeah, get off the fucking phone. Yeah.
But yeah, and but obviously growing up, because of how I grew up, and obviously my brother, who I shared a room with, he was the big metal fan. See, because he was like 11 years older than me. So of course, when he's at his 16, 17 age, I'm at my 5, 6. And that's when I was introduced with all this stuff. And his main bands, go-to bands, were Faith No More, obviously Metallica. He played a lot of the older stuff as well. We're going back to Led Zeppelin and stuff, but all through that thrash era, all that era. So I was subjected to that anyway from a very young age. And obviously, but he was a big Faith No More fan. So Mike Patton was one of those first sort of singers. Like, I think when I heard Surprise You're Dead, he does a very quick delivery on that, and there's a lot of that was one of the songs I heard, and I thought, well, that's kind of similar to what I do in a way, some of that delivery. And I thought, well, that I knew he did that, and I thought, that's really cool. So I must admit, I'm out of, if we're talking metal singers and metal vocalists, then definitely Mike Patton. And obviously there's other aspects of the album and other weird stuff I do that is definitely got some of his inspiration from. But out of metal, I have looked to other rappers and just to, but I wouldn't say I'm the biggest rap fan, because I've always kind of grew up being around metal music, but I'm one of those people who appreciate all genres of music, and I do listen to rap, and I do like a lot of it, mainly the older stuff, I don't like a lot of the new stuff that's in the charts, and the stuff they're talking about is just, it doesn't interest me. But anyone who's kind of really telling a story and they tell it really well. And of course, your obvious is like Eminem and the way he does his syllables and he works around in his words. I look at things like that, and it just gives you an idea of where things that you were, where you could go and things you could do and stuff like that. But they're my main, anything really.
I think, I mean, they are two iconic and leaders of their fields, singers vocalists in massively different genres, especially Eminem, who he's a wordsmith as well as being an incredible rapper. The detail that goes into the lyrics and like the rhyming couplets and but sometimes just the way that he'll rhyme something, or you'll hear a word and you'll think, well, good luck getting a rhyme out of that. And it's like and he gets so many words in before he does get back to rhyme with that. You're almost like, I'm like, oh yeah, no, he did do it, but my head's full of the other words now. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And Mike Patton as well. I mean, he's you ever want to piss off a singing teacher, say, I want to sing like this guy. Here's a 10-minute YouTube video where he covers about 30 styles. I mean, it's insane. But
did either of you guys ever see there's an interview I saw with Rick Rubin, and he's talking about Eminem, and he talks about how he's in the studio and he's like, he's got notebooks that he's constantly writing lyrics in. And I ask him, oh, are these the lyrics for the album? And he's like, oh no, these will probably never even be in anything. I just write all the time. Like he's just constantly has a notebook writing lyrics all the time. And most of them probably just go in a closet. It's like, but still he's got so much coming out of his brain like that. I can't even, I have an entire mini album worth of music that I did that's complete, but I can't write any lyrics to it. And so it's literally been there for a year. And every time I try to go write stuff, I go, nope, I don't like this. I can't do this. So I look at somebody like Eminem and I go, fuck you, man. You're just constantly fucking writing lyrics. Just throw some my way, dude. Jeez.
Don't worry. All us singers look at Eminem and go, fuck you, man. Just give us all a break, will you?
I mean, I must admit, that's one reason I'm glad I've got something like my mobile phone, because you often do find if you're out and about, you just have these weird instances and moments where good lines come to you, or you see something or you hear something, you think, damn, that's really good. I'd love to use that. So I always like jot it down in notes and this and that, because like if you actually sit down and say, I'm going to write a song, sometimes you can have some block in your head and you can't think or anything. But yeah, other days you could be out just walking the dog, walking to go shopping. You suddenly think of all this stuff. I need to write this down. So
yeah,
always good to jot everything.
That works like a double whammy for me, because I'm doing that with comedy and lyrics as well. So I've got my various like programs and my fucking Microsoft Notes, isn't it? But there's lyrics, song ideas, and then there's like comedy material. Because it works, but it works very similarly. You just have that sort of, sometimes it's a complete thought, or sometimes it's half a thought, and you think, yeah, maybe there's something in that, But I'm always writing phrases down and sentences down and bits like that, and I might come back to them and delete some because they're not as good as I thought they were when they don't have that same heft the second time. But then other times it's like, yeah, right, okay, oh, that's even better than I thought, And I wrote one down and I was like, yeah, it's quite cool. Next time I came to it, I was like, that's actually a potential album title. You never know. You never know what's going to come up.
I suppose it's similar in a way in terms of, you have comedic timing, right? Yeah. What they say can be, like that perfect little pause or this and that. I mean,
Yeah.
you can, in retrospect, that can be the same with your delivery with your vocals. There's some lines, and it's just to get in that right timing, and
Absolutely,
and
absolutely.
that can make so much difference in a chorus and this and that. And it's only when you go back or you listen to something you've done, you think, oh, I could have timed this better. And so there's always stuff to work on and your craft, and it's a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, comedy's a hand grenade. I mean, if I'm doing a gag, if I'm doing the setup to a gag, and somebody walks past the front of the stage, even if I'm like up a few feet and they walk past the stage, I'm at a stage in my career now where I can I can just stop and just go, right, it's not worth me doing the punchline now.
Yeah, because tight, yeah,
because,
been killed.
because that person walked past and everyone just went and they missed whatever word or two words I said. They come back, I deliver the punchline, no laugh. And when you first start out, and for the first few years, it takes time to learn this. Do you know what I mean? But when you're in a small club and there's people, you've got to be aware of that, because otherwise it's just dead in the water.
Yeah.
So from a vocal delivery point of view, there'll be times where you'll be coming up to a section and you'll be thinking, right, he's slightly out here. So I am just going to drop this section altogether and I'm just going to come in on the beat, fat on the beat, and we'll be off again. And you're going to learn that when you come on tour with us. Woo!
It's going to be interesting. Looking forward to it though. It's going to be good.
Oh, mate, it's going to be great. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Can't wait. It's going to be a really, 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 really good laugh.
Yes.
Of course,
I'll just be over here in America, not being able to enjoy it at all.
we might see you in March. You never know.
Oh shit, man.
Yeah, you've forgotten all about that, hadn't you?
I haven't forgotten about it. It's just one of those things where I'm all like, it's logistically a nightmare trying to figure that out for me.
Oh, I can absolutely believe it, mate. Okay, so anyway, we're touring Mexico in March, and I think we come within about an 8-hour drive of your house.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's it.
That's the
just
closest
the one show
we're gonna get. That's the closest we're gonna get to playing Steve's house.
8 hours. It's a long drive.
So you got it. Yeah, it is a long drive, mate. It is. But no, it's going to be a great laugh, mate. It's going to be a great laugh. And look, congratulations on the album and sitting and yapping with us all this time. Do appreciate it. And for those of you who've enjoyed listening, it's Tempashot Certified Dangerous, just before Certified Platinum. And get to their Bandcamp page, for God's sake, because that will get them more money than going anywhere else. So just go to Bandcamp and search Tempashot. Anything else, Luke? Because I just went into I'm the singer in Tempashot mode. Sorry.
Yeah, well, it's Bandcamp. It's out. Obviously, you can sort of pick it up everywhere. You can, I think it's online and most big stores, obviously digitally. We've got plenty. Oh yeah, the physical CD does have a bonus track, which you only get on the physical CD until some annoying person puts it on YouTube. But hopefully they won't. But
yeah. Well, just report them, mate. Just report that motherfucker and say no, they don't own the copyright, okay? And YouTube will do nothing about it.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
But anyway, look, thanks for coming on, man. Really appreciate it.
No problem. It's been a pleasure, mate. Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care. So there we are. That was our chat with Luke. We enjoyed it. Hope you did. Yep. Lovely guy, isn't he?
Absolutely, and great band. They're going places. Those guys, I'm going to say.
Absolutely. I mean, if there's somebody else out there doing something even vaguely similar, then do let us know, because I'm sure all of these kind of bands are going to want to band together and help promote each other.
Yeah.
Whilst they're still narrow-minded dickheads are going, I like the thrash, but I'm not sure about the vocals. You know, yeah, fuck you, buddy. You're the reason why music dies.
Is it weird that one of my favorite things out of the UK is guys that pronounce THs like they're Fs? I don't know why that just makes me so thrash. It's thrash, isn't it?
Good solid thrash album, isn't it? 6 out of 10. Good old solid thrash, isn't it?
I love it.
So yeah, make sure you get hold of the album. Try and go to Bandcamp as well, because that's the best. That's the best of all the camps, as far as I'm aware. Yeah,
I mean, for bands. No.
Yeah. Thank you. You prevented me from going on a tangent there. Yeah, the one no one wants to see or hear. And that's going to be one of my favorite albums of the year, I would imagine. I might even go through it in February for y'all. Yeah, looking forward to this year. I've got to be honest, couldn't give a flying fuck about the new Metallica album, but
you don't have to, because I will. So I will cover it enthusiastically, and then you can just nod your head and then tell me that you disagree.
Mate, there's some bloke on YouTube, right, who's reviewing their entire back catalogue all the way up to the new album coming out. I'm always seeing his videos. The other day it was of his of the one he likes the least, which was Reloaded, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, there's always somebody out there going to cover it. Oh, hang on, it's you, isn't it?
I do a lot of shit about Metallica.
Yeah, no, mate. Honestly, I've been seeing all of the Metallica reviews, and every time I see one of those videos, I admire the dedication, man. That's
well, you know. They are my favorite band of all time, and also I like talking about them, especially their latter day stuff, because I bring a positive spin to it that I think is sorely missing on the internet, because it is all. It is a whole lot of Metallica's great, except past the first 4 albums. And I'm like, well, join the club of millions that say that same shit. Whereas,
dead since No Life Till Leather demo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sold out. So, they recorded the music. Fucking sellouts.
They went to a studio. Fuck that.
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, in that. You might have seen there's a meme that we're tagged in about, you know, who's got albums coming out this year and all the rest of it, Metallica. And in one of somebody posted, Metallica aren't thrash, they're trash. And I replied underneath and said, congratulations, nobody has ever said that before. Maybe you should copyright it. And then and basically that just opened the door,
isn't it?
Everyone just piled in like, dude, really?
Isn't it funny the things that people say, I guess thinking that they're not already being said by millions of other people. My favorite one is anytime somebody posts something from Rage Against the Machine, somebody always says, well, now they're called Rage for the Machine. Like literally every time. And like everyone's just like, great. Congratulations on a joke that millions of other douchebags have already made.
Yeah, exactly. It's like when a British person refers to Twitter as twatter. It's just like, oh, you're hilarious. You're hilarious. I didn't see that on a T-shirt at the beach 10 years ago. Fuck off. You know, but yeah, Metallica's not thrash. It's trash. Fuck me. I mean, well, so it sounded good in the head.
Do you want to know why that's funny? I feel like I talk about Metallica too much, but fuck it, I don't care. I find it amusing that you will see people who go one way or the other, and Metallica always gets the short end of the stick. So, you know, but for example, people will talk about that last Megadeth album, and they'll say it's a thrash album, but there's really only like 3 thrash songs on it. The rest of the album is just middle of the road Megadeth. Whereas Metallica have put out 2 albums in a row that did have thrash on them, but those songs are ignored, and people just say they don't do thrash anymore. I'm like, well, why is Megadeth considered thrash? But you know, Metallica does Hardwired and Spit Out the Bone and songs like that, but yet they're not enough thrash. So it's just one of those things where people create this truth that they want. And I'm just like, fuck that.
Well, I think, to be honest, I think where that truth comes from is if you look at Megadeth's output of the last 10 years and you look at Metallica's output of the last 10 years, there'll be a lot more thrash coming from Megadeth because of the volume of product they've put out.
I guess somewhat.
So basically what I'm saying is I think that's how that happens.
Yeah.
They've just heard more of those. There was only 2 thrash songs on there. Yeah, but Metallica have done what, maybe 2 thrash songs in the last 10 years, whereas Megadeth have probably done about 10, but spread across 5 albums.
Yeah. You're right.
But it kind of like, I think that's maybe how it just penetrates people's minds. But also, I mean, I'm very much flip with Metallica because yes, I really seem to have just taken no interest and have no interest now, which I never thought would happen.
Yeah.
But Lux Eterna just really just absolutely nothing for me. But they're always going to be the band that created thrash metal. And before you start saying, well, actually, I think you'll find the first band to play thrash metal was actually a British punk band in 1969 called the Ruts or something like that. Go fuck it. Right. Just fuck off. Just go fuck yourself. Nobody cares. That's in your head. The rest of the world says it was Metallica. And maybe they didn't. Maybe they just, maybe there was somebody just before. Oh, Exodus were around. Well, guess what? History says it was Metallica. And what they've done and where they've come. Sometimes now it still makes me laugh when I'll see Metallica in a position. I'll see them on TV. I'll hear one of their songs being used I was watching Top Gear and I could hear an acoustic guitar playing a riff underneath this segment. For the whole episode, the riff was in my head. What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that? It doesn't normally sound like that, but I know it. Fucking hell. It's Orion. Searches Orion acoustic. Finds the guys, Rodrigo and what her name is.
Oh, Gabriella. Oh, yeah.
Find Rodrigo and Gabriella. Get the acoustic version of Orion. Awesome.
Yeah.
And this is the band that I have been into since pretty much nobody gave a fuck. No, and like they've done one gig in the UK, they just weren't a thing. And going to see them on tour, and like the venues weren't sold out. It was a big deal, and there was more people than people were expecting because this music was bigger than people realized.
Yeah,
but I was taking time off school, which was very good of them to let me. If I'd asked, I'm sure they would have done. And taking time off school to go and get to the venue and be there all day and hang out with them and I met Cliff, met all the band and all the rest, and to now be in a position where you're like, they were my boys. They were my band. They were the band of my youth. Never mind my teens. They brought thrash metal to me as much as anything else. So everything grew from that, and to now be in a position where you see that they have become what they've become. I have got nothing but admiration.
Yeah,
I really have. I think I think as a band, as a business, as a legacy of what they've done for metal and everything else. And like, there's a lot to pull apart. People will bring up things like, whoa, James Hetfield's a hunter. It's like, okay, fine. What's Dave Mustaine's hobby? A, no one knows. B, no one fucking cares. It's like, there's everybody's got, there's always going to be something, but you look at you look at the volume of work, you look at the back catalogue, you look at the catalogue, whether it's a comedian, whether it's a band, whether it's a film director, you look at the body of work and you judge them on the body of work. You don't judge them on a few highlights, a few lowlights, you judge them on a body of work. And the body of work says, in my opinion, the body of work says, job done, biggest metal band in history.
Yeah.
So,
and you know, honestly, if I ever,
I don't have to like it.
I'm a pretty honest person too, and so I know that there's the possibility that I could come to where you are, where one day I will be done with my favorite band in the world, and I hope that never happens. But I understand that, because there are other bands that maybe aren't as important to me as Metallica, but bands that I've loved for years, and I've gotten to a point where I just go, I can't be bothered with it anymore. It's not for me anymore. And that sucks. But luckily with Metallica, it hasn't happened for me yet. I'm still just as excited as I've ever been. So,
yeah, no, I mean, it happened with me with Slipknot. And I think it's almost like you get like 4 or 5 albums down the line and this voice in your head goes, you do realize that you were expecting the first album again, don't you? You do realize you're still searching for a high that this particular drug has not delivered for some time.
Yeah.
And you are literally weaning yourself off a band, because like that album that you got into and that you absolutely loved, that is pure mainline heroin. Yeah, that's the finest stuff from Afghanistan. Yeah. And everything they release afterwards is going to be a diluted version of that. You are going to get less and less high until you wonder, why am I even doing this? You know, why? It's an addiction. It's a trigger. It's, new album, better listen to it. New album, better listen to it. New album. And at one point you go, no, actually, do you know what? I don't need to listen to it. I know what it'll be like. It'll be another disappointment.
Yeah. But I think that right there sums up why I'm still so much on board with Metallica, because it's almost like, because of the albums that a lot of people like to shit on, those have actually highlighted the ones that people hold up as like these absolute classics. But for me, it's like this thing where if you look at a band like Overkill, perfectly great, you know, thrash metal and metal band, but the majority of their output is really similar. And so there's nothing that I can't go back to an album later and expect to get something different out of it. Whereas Metallica has now given me these albums where, even though a lot of, you know, Hardwired to Self-Destruct is middle of the road and some of it is a little bit derivative at times, it still to me stands apart from everything else that they ever did. So, you know, they've given me all these different things where they're a band that I love because they did Load, because they did Saint Anger, because they did S&M, because they did that fucking movie that I love. They just, you know, all these different things that they did that weren't just putting out, trying to do Master of Puppets again 20 times. And so
absolutely, yeah.
So that's why. That's the number one reason. And that's also why I'm a big champion of giving spotlights on all of their stuff. You know, somebody says Master of Puppets is their best album, I'm going to say you're not wrong, but let's talk about why Load is really fucking great. You know, it's like, you know, it's just so that's why, especially this particular year, there's going to be so much Metallica coming out of my world.
Look, happy for you. I mean, Hardwired to me has some horrific decisions on there, mainly drumming. I was just very disappointed. I listened again all the way through to the Guitar Hero mix of Death Magnetic.
Yeah.
What an album.
Yeah.
What an album. I mean, it's so different. It is so different. It really is. I genuinely, I keep reassessing that album and it keeps going up the bloody chart.
Oh yeah.
It really, really does. If that is the album that Rick Rubin wanted them to put out, they should have put that out. I kind of feel like that might have been the case, but I also kind of feel like someone somewhere got in their heads this fucking loudness wars. Someone got in their heads with it because it's so far, it's so superior, the Guitar Hero version, that it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be. That's not right. That does not compute.
The production of that album never bothered me. It was noticeable, and it was something that when I first heard it, I go, why would they choose that? But it never took anything away from the album for me.
Totally agree. Absolutely agree 1000%. It's just that then you listen to the Guitar Hero version and go,
yeah,
oh, hang on, that's so much better.
So I know that had to have been Rick Rubin, because if you go listen to Slayer albums that he produced, System of a Down albums he produced, there's a whole lot of that brick walling on so many albums that he produced. And so I think it's either him or an engineer that's working for him, because the guy who mastered Death Magnetic, he's gone on record and said, it came to me like that.
Yeah.
But that's unfortunate, but it's not the first Rick Rubin album that's had that problem.
But can you imagine? Can you imagine, right? Being a masterer, yeah, and you're doing the new Metallica album, you think, oh, this should be good, and it arrives, and you get the files, you put it on your machine, and go, right, what the fuck am I supposed to do with that then?
It's all in the red.
Yeah, it's like, right, well, I'm either going to try and add a little bit of depth or add a little bit of clarity up top. This is all fucked.
Yeah.
Fucking absolutely nothing. Just put it through the sausage machine.
To be fair, though, I have an original vinyl from 2008 when it came out. That actually sounds better than a CD version of the album. It still has its problems, but it does actually sound a little better.
Yeah. But do you agree with the Guitar Hero?
Oh yeah.
Version?
Yeah, when I remember it wasn't very, when that came out, people had started releasing it like on your file sharing sites and stuff. And so I downloaded the album like that and listened to it. And I was like, yeah, why didn't they go with this? I don't quite understand. But I mean, at this point, it's one of those things where it's become a character of the album and I actually like it the same way that I've grown to really like the snare sound on Saint Anger. And most people just can't get over it. But I'm like, now I listen to it and I go, I think it adds an element to that album that makes it even more kind of batshit than it would have been. So
are you telling me, in all seriousness, there was a point in the last few years where you sat all the way through Invisible Kid and enjoyed it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I like that whole album. Like
I know you do, but it's just there are some like especially annoying shit songs on there. My only critique of that album now is just that I wish they had edited themselves a little bit better and made so the songs could have been shorter. Maybe not all of them, but a good half of them could have been cut down by a few minutes at least. But that's also what happens when you literally don't have songs and you create the song structure. You take chunks and go, put that there, put that there, put that there. And basically the way they put that together is as badly advised as writing lyrics by committee.
Oh yeah,
they are literally what they did with the lyrics. They did with the fucking music as well, and it's like, no, you've done it once, no.
Yeah, stop. No, I wouldn't want them to do it again, but I love that it exists. But yeah, I really hope. And I can't be the only person. I really hope once they roll around to the box set, of Saint Anger, if they actually release one, they should. But I really hope that they put out the unfucked with song jams, because there are things like if you watch Some Kind of Monster and other stuff, you'll hear music that isn't on Saint Anger, and I go, I want to hear that. Like, where does that come from? So I want them to put out the raw tapes of just certain songs and to hear like where they came from, because there is a whole lot of like swapping bits around in Pro Tools or whatever.
Well, I think you're going to be waiting a long time, to be honest, mate. Because I say that because I am still waiting for the definitive Metallica re-release. Hopefully, you know where I'm going with this. We need to have the CDs, the vinyl, all needs to be remastered. Then the concert needs to be completely remastered, put onto Blu-ray. S&M.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. What?
It's not on Blu-ray?
No.
Oh wow. Okay. I don't have a Blu-ray player, so I don't.
It is still the exact same CD and the same double DVD that was released back then.
Yeah.
Nothing. That's insane.
Well, I have a feeling if they're going in order, maybe they will get to that. If they do load and reload, and maybe they will do a definitive or remastered, S&M at that point, because it's going to come after that.
I really, really, really hope they do.
I don't see why. I don't see why they wouldn't.
Well,
I mean, they even re-released Garage Days. Like they
yeah.
So I figured if they're going to get around to all of them eventually, re-releasing them, even 30 years down the line, getting a reissue of Hardwired to Self-Destruct when we're all dead.
Well, on that cheerful note about dead,
everyone's already tuned out because they're like, God damn it, he's talking about Metallica again.
Happy New Year!
Woo!
We're all gonna be dead in 30 years. So anyway, lovely to chat to you as always, mate.
Yes.
Let's crack on, and we'll see everybody again in February.
All right. Later, everyone.
Take care, guys. Bye.